as we can see with the national climate, it's even more important to ensure that we have an effective and efficient local government, make sure that they're addressing our needs and concerns, and make sure that they're providing the services and supports necessary for us to be able to prosper. So again, my name is Rufus J. Faulk. I'm a candidate for District 7 City Council. I'm born and raised in Roxbury. My mother and father actually met at Boston Technical High School. They just celebrated their 36th anniversary. They're still together today. My mother was born in Mission Hill, the youngest of 5. My father is the 7th of 14. He was born in Cathedral. I'm a product of Boston Public Schools, which is funny. Just 20 years ago, I was 15, going to Boston Latin Academy, and at that time, I was in the process of about to get kept back. I was somebody who was sort of running astray and wasn't really fulfilling my full potential. But during that time, the city of Boston offered services that could help young people, that offered services that could support young people. And I was able to redirect. I was able to get my first job. I was able to have academic supports to the point where I was able to go to a new high school, go to Temple University and graduate, go to Boston University to get my master's, and now I'm working on my doctorate right now in law and policy. I'm somebody who is a product of the systems that your city council is supposed to advocate for. Your city council is responsible for tying city services to the community, ensuring that folks who need summer jobs have access to those summer jobs, but most importantly, ensuring that we have the correct number of summer jobs. I see young people today who didn't even have a job for the whole summer because they didn't feel like they had an access point to receive those jobs. And I was one of those young people who benefited from that. Having that first job showed me how important it was to not only serve my community, but how that one job could then set you up for work and moving forward in the future. And all those things are interconnected. And we have a lot of issues within the city of Boston. We have housing issues, we have public safety issues, we have education issues. But I think, unfortunately, we haven't done a good enough job of showing how all those issues are interconnected, how education impacts our public safety, how public safety impacts our housing, and how housing impacts our transportation. I've been able to, in my professional career, address those issues. For the last 12 years, I was a program director at the Boston 10-Point Coalition. And one of our main roles was addressing public safety issues within the community, but also advocating for some of the other issues that are impacting our city. So how does our housing issues impact our young people and our elders? Right now, we have elders who are being pushed out of their housing because we have all this development happening, but one of the impacts of development is higher property taxes. And a lot of our elders aren't able to withstand those increases in property taxes because they're on a fixed income. And we have renters like myself who have their rents going up 10, 15%, but because their wages are remaining stagnant, they're being pushed out and being forced out to different communities. And right now, we have to ensure that these housing crises that we're experiencing, we got to realize that this isn't just a 2017 issue. This issue has been happening for the last 17 years. These plans have been laid out, and now we're just seeing the byproducts of them. And it's going to take more than us picketing what's wrong. We have to sort of find a way to sort of collaborate, and that's what our city council I want to do. We have neighborhood associations on every corner in Roxbury, yet our neighborhood associations are fighting independent fights. They're fighting against developers, but nobody's doing a job at bringing our neighborhood developments, our neighborhood associations together to create standards for what our housing needs to be. If we could bring our neighborhood association together and say, as a community, we want to define what affordable means. We have developers say they created affordable housing, but they're not affordable to those of us who live within the community. And and I believe it's our role as a fixture and as a unit to come together and say, we want to define what affordable means. We want to define what market rate housing means, because we're not against development, but we're against development that's not fit to what our communities look like, and us not having a say. Because we get to the point where we have these plans are laid out, but we're not in any part of the developmental stages of them. And when these developments go up, we're not allowed to have commercial space to ensure that we can build an economic base. And we're not allowed to be able to move in and move into these units. So we have a lot of issues, but I believe that my experience in bringing not only services together, whether it be probation officers, bringing folks who work from the city and state, bringing these entities together to find a way that we can build coalition to address our issues. As I said, I'm a product of Roxbury, and was funny. I was just here 2 months ago. Last time I was here for an event, it was for a graduation. And I was doing the keynote address for a community academy. Community academy is the school that had a lot of young people who had left Department of Youth Services, who had challenges in their life, but they were still able to persevere and get the high school diploma. So that was 2 months ago. I was giving the keynote address, trying to encourage these young people. But then just last month, one of the young person that graduated from Community Academy was just murdered. And we're losing a lot of our young people who are graduating our schools, who don't feel like they have a way into our community, and they're just sort of lost children within our city streets. We're losing so much of our potential. And one of the issue is, as a city, how are we doing a better job to create platforms for them to succeed? And that's what I want to do. We have young people who have enormous potential, but aren't having access point to enjoy that potential. We have city and state jobs that can offer those wages and those incomes that can allow those of us who are being pushed out to stay within our communities. But though our folks from our communities aren't receiving access to those jobs. And as a city councilor, you have to advocate for your community, ensuring that you don't only have an accurate tally of what services and skills that your community members have. How many plumbers do we have? How many people do we have who are OSHA certified? You have that role intact, but you also have relationships with developers, relationships with those city and state entities to ensure that your community then has access to those employment opportunities. That's one of the things that we're missing. We have, I door knock and I've had conversations with people, and they are so discouraged about the political process because they see elected officials only when they want their vote. But when they pick up the phone to make a phone call because they have a real issue, they feel like their elected official was not there to support them. And then that's why we have so many people who feel sort of jaded about the political process, which is why our voting numbers in Roxbury are so low. Because people don't feel like their vote actually can impact and sort of could change their current condition. And as elected officials, we have to do a better job to ensuring people that your vote is directly connected to the service in which you are receiving. We have young people, we have parents who send their children to Boston Public Schools but aren't engaged in the political process. We have to close that gap because your city councilor is overseeing that city budget. And if we can bring family members and bring students together to sort of be able to dictate what type of services that they want within their schools. I just had a conversation with the principal at the Timothy. And the Timothy was one of the gyms when I was in middle school, and now they're struggling with not having advanced work class seats that are open. They're not at the same standard in terms of their MCAS scores are going down, and they're not feeling like they're receiving the necessary level of support. So the question is, as a community, how do we begin to pour in those services that can then ensure that the Timothy is going back to the standard that it was when I was there, when I was in middle school? So again, we have a lot of issues, but I think we have to really acknowledge that we have a lot of assets within our community. We have a lot of potential within our community. But the question is, how do we do a better job at communicating with one another? Right now, we have 3 meetings going on at the same time, where we have residents who have to pick and choose which meetings that they're going to attend. So we have to do a better job ensuring that our residents are informed about what's going on. Oftentimes we're informed about meetings, informed about development when it's after the fact. We have to streamline that level of information. So the same way that we can knock on your door to try to get your vote is the same way we have to ensure that we're knocking on your door to ensure that you're getting that information. So again, we have a lot of issues, but I believe as a community, we can tackle these issues because we've overcome more, and we have the potential to do so. For the last 12 years, I've been tackling issues, whether it be criminal justice reform, and ensuring that around core reform that we were changing the standard around how long your federal, I'm losing the word. So when you think about when you have your core reform around mandatory minimums, ensuring that we're trying to address that, the 3 strikes law, we fought against that even though it got passed. We were one of the groups to ensure that, sort of trying to inform people how that can impact our neighborhoods and impact our communities. Our public schools, I had a conversation, we have 125 schools, and oftentimes your experience or your grade of the school will be dictated about the school that you attended. We have, until we get to the point where Burke Middle School is offering the same level of education of Boston Latin, we're not going to be at a place where all our kids are going to be able to succeed. I had friends who were just as smart as me and smarter, who may not have tested well, so they weren't able to go to some of the best schools. And I see them now still trying to struggle, still trying to find a way, where they have to work 1 or 2 jobs just to be able to afford to live in the apartment that they're staying in. Again, my vision for this district is, District 7 is a microcosm for the city of Boston. We have one of the largest gaps of income inequality, and we have a lot of potential. We have a lot of resources and services, but we're not doing a good enough job in ensuring that our residents are being connected directly to those services. And I believe that in order for us to do so, in order for us to tackle the issues that we're struggling with, we have to do, it'll be my job to advocate and create platforms for our residents to be able to feel that their voice is being heard around housing. So again, like I said, around bringing our neighborhood associations together to create a housing standard that not only fits for the street that they're fighting for, but that can address the overall housing development issues in Roxbury as a whole. Issues around public safety. We had a partnership with our state representative, China Tyler, to bring safe initiatives to some of our summer parks, where we know a lot of our families don't feel like some of our parks are safe places to be. So we formed together to come together and create these safe spaces to begin to rebuild and reform these communities. I had a partnership with our city council president, Michelle Wu, to create some additional funding around summer jobs, because summer jobs may seem like a minor thing, but when we have so many young people who have so much idle time, that summer job is not only career development, it's personal development as well. And that will allow them to take extra steps and to be able to progress in their path towards productive adulthood. I've studied these issues policy-wise. I have contextual experience having grown up in this community, being born and raised here, having troubles here, and being able to overcome those issues. I have academic experience dealing with policies, getting my master's in urban affairs, getting my doctorate in law and policy, being able to address how all of our systems interact and be able to create policies to address our issues. I got into politics because I felt like our voice was not being represented within the political process. There wasn't many people speaking to the issues that were directly impacting me, and I wanted to get involved in that. I wanted to be at the table creating those policies, because policy is what changes quality of life within our community. It's the same reason why I decided to move back to Boston. I graduated from Temple University in 2005, receiving phone calls about young people that I grew up personally being murdered. I knew that I had a duty to come back to the community and serve, which is why I came back and started doing the work. So this role of city councilor is not a new role for me in terms of service and constituent services. I've been doing this for the last 12 years. I'm committed to this neighborhood. I'm vested in this community. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and my main role is to make sure that my daughter and every other young person in this community has an opportunity to enjoy the benefits and development that's happening here. How do we connect our elders to our youth? Because we have an intergenerational gap right now. We have wisdom that our elders have that isn't being transferred to our young people, because either A, they're not listening, or there's not a platform to bring those groups together. We have a number of issues, but I believe that as a community, as a group, we can tackle these issues, and I believe that I have the best experience to do so. I've done the work on the ground. I've been on the ground doing the work. I have the policy experience. I have the connections with our local and state officials already, and I believe I can hit the ground running if you're so willing to elect me as your next city council. So I appreciate your time. I was trying to hit every issue, so I apologize if I was rambling a little bit, but please feel free to ask any question. I'm here to answer every question. Thank you.